Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Skeinz Diaries. Today, it's episode 22, 23, 22 today. And it is the 6th of August. You're with Maree and the wonderful Ethan over there at Outlaw HQ. And both of us have switched it up today, new backgrounds. I know.
New places to sit. I've got the branding in the background.
I'm actually, and the girls, we've moved. My old dining table has been living here at the shop since we opened, and we actually moved it into the sort of teaching room / video room today. And it's like, I can finally sit at a table, a proper table with a proper chair instead of perching on the couch. And yeah, it's great, so comfy.
I'm perched on a chair. I've got my knitting on my lap. We're good to go.
It is good to go. Oh, Jeanette and Bart, it's nice to see our early birds are always here. It's fantastic.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I did put up a wee teaser this morning as well, quickly on the book of Face and Instagram, because I've got my big reveal today, but we'll wait for a few more people to get in before we do that.
Today.
Yes. And today, honestly, a morning. I had been to Hastings twice before 9:30 this morning. Twice.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yes, it is. And all I have to say is, because both our sons are at different schools, but they both are in Hastings. And yeah, it doesn't help when one forgets his sports kit and he has a game today. And I reminded him twice. But that's teenage boys for you, isn't it?
I mean,
I can hear Deb
comments about balls and bags right now, not going to help anyone.
I know, drives me crazy. And I do apologise in advance for all the snuffling. That I sound like a hedgehog on heat. I'm really sorry about that, guys. I've got the worst hay fever. Anybody that has ever spent time in the Bay will know we have the pine pollen starts running, and it started at least a week early this year. It usually starts running at around now.
Congratulations.
I know, and it lasts for about a month. So my bulldog and I sound like twins.
Snuffle together.
And no amount of antihistamine makes it better, but there you go. So yes, very, very good. I think what we'll do is we'll start off, we'll get the big to-dos out of the way. So first, we're going to talk about this because you and I talked about this briefly yesterday.
We did. We both had some moments.
We did have some moments.
Separately but together.
Yes. Yeah. And it actually made me so much better when I found that you had the same moment that I did. So what I'm talking about, and this is, I think, I hope this makes everybody out there feel better, because it just shows that it happens to all of us.
Even the professionals
have this moment. And the moment is I was going great guns on my Goldwing, and I had a really good go on Monday night. And I got to Tuesday. I was up very early Tuesday morning. I got a lot more done. And I thought, I'm actually going to get this finished today. It's like, because I could see where I was going with it. I thought I'd made my decision about the modification, which we'll talk about in a minute. And which meant that I needed to identify the front from the back. So I was being a builder. I checked it twice. Did it?
Yeah.
Yep. Good.
Yep.
Away we went. Knittity knit. Did all my
palooza.
Rows. Got in. Did my ribbing. Got halfway through my ribbing. Was holding it up to show my husband. Looked at the top. Looked at the bottom. Insert 4-letter expletives here.
You can choose at home which one Maree used. Comment now. No, don't do it.
I was spewing. I could not believe it. I had done it the wrong way round. How, I don't know, because I had really cheated. And the thing is, people, there's just no way. I couldn't fudge this. I mean,
no.
I hate frogging. I hate frogging with a passion. If I can fudge it and not frog, I will do that. But it didn't matter which way I sliced and diced it. I could not get this frog.
You can't really hide short rows on the wrong half of the garment.
Exactly. And to be fair, I wasn't happy with my wrap and turns. I hadn't picked them up as nice. I mean, it was dark and late, and I hadn't picked them up on one half of it as nicely as I would have hoped. And then I'd also decided to do a ribbing, and then I kind of then looked at it and I thought, actually, that ribbon isn't working for me either.
time to remove it.
Yeah, and so then at 10:45 on Tuesday night, I thought I'm not going to get to sleep with this. So then I was frogging it at 10:45.
Deeply cathartic.
Completely frogged, picked it, and I frogged everything, got that needle back in, got back to a couple of rounds, so I was at least back to ground zero again.
Yes.
For yesterday.
I feel you.
So then you and I had a chat. So I was knitting frustration is real with you, and then you said, "Well,
I'm not going to pretend like I often make errors in my knitting. I am one of the most neurotic knitters you will ever meet. I highlight everything in patterns. If I'm making a modification, I physically write out the modification I'm doing. I tend to be really good about following things. I'm really good at reading my work and double checking. When I'm doing increases and decreases, I place markers in the row so that I know how many I've done. And I thought to myself, oh, well, it's a stockinette sleeve with some decreases, and you've only modified it by adding 8 stitches. How badly can this go? So just a reminder, everyone, that when you're knitting in navy in the evening, and you might have opened an alcoholic beverage or 6, or actually in my case it was 2, you are playing with fire, okay? So I have been making sleeves, which I actually enjoy, weirdly. I love Sleeve Island. I know all of you in the comments at me. I'm fine with it. Because I like Magic Loop. So it's a fun experience for me, and it shows you exactly where you need to decrease. However, someone, when counting his stitches, might have decreased on both ends of a sleeve on one row, and then had proceeded to make 40 more rows of sleeve. In the Sock Bandit, which is a beautiful high twist, very 4-ply yarn, very 4-ply. So as I ripped out several hours of knitting and sat there staring at it going, oh my God, and then picked up all of the stitches. Now, everyone at home, I do a weird thing when I frog. I don't know if you know this. To like ease the frogging frustration, I go back to where I've made the mistake, and I neurotically go around with a much smaller needle, and I pick up all of the stitches first and put them all back on the needle, and then I just rip it out in rage. And I use a ball winder to frog too. So like it's this furious process where like I connect the yarn, I re-ball the rest of the ball, and then suddenly it just starts frogging the sleeve. And
I had done mine onto waste yarn for exactly that same reason.
Yes.
Like fastidiously.
And like you're totally pissed off. You're sitting there staring at this thing, but like I don't do the fudging. I can't abide the mistakes. But like I had to make a rule, and everyone at home, this might help you with your knitting frustration. I don't allow it to sit for more than 10 minutes. I literally, and in the most pedantic way possible, I start an actual countdown timer from 10 minutes, and I just sit there and I wait. And I stare at the wall, and I sip on the beverage, and I take a deep breath, and then I pick up the tiny needle, and I pick up the stitches, and when 10 minutes hits, I just rip it out. It's never worth it. And I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but I say this to every new knitter. 30% of all knitting in your entire lifetime will inevitably be frogged.
Yeah. So funny you should mention a new knitter. I've been mentoring and teaching a new knitter, digitally from afar.
Yeah.
And they are a night owl. So I'd made my mistake and I went to go to bed and I was so frustrated. And they'd been out and they were up knitting their project. And I said, right, I want to see your project. So I did a video call and I was like, knitting frustration is real. And they were like, oh, I've never seen you like that before. It's like, well, you've just started this journey. Get used to it because it happens, even to the experts. Oh, it's so funny. And I just had to, you've got to let it go. You've just got to, as you said, put it as, you've just got to do it. And I knew that I had to do it there and then, because if I didn't, I would just put it in the naughty corner and be too angry to pick it up again.
Don't go to bed angry.
No, and you can't, because you can't
That's
go
the
to
whole
sleep.
thing. What's true in life is often true in knitting, and vice versa. Our personal savior, Elizabeth Zimmerman, has often said that knitting is like a marriage. You just have to get through it.
You do. And so there, everybody, both Ethan and I, you have your moments. And so I did with the gold ring. But here we go. I'm just going to pull my chair back a little bit so we can see.
Okay. Okay, Maree. Shots fired. Yeah. That is a stunner. I think that you should message the designer and say, look, I changed 3 things, so now it's my recipe, and I have some suggestions.
So this is how I have become prepared. So I printed this out earlier. So for those who haven't caught up, and I know most in the chat have seen this before, but for those that have just joined us, so this is the pattern here as written, right? I'm sorry, only gastric banding will have me looking like that. Just saying. Now, which is fine, because I have the ability to actually change it. So that's okay. So now, because this has been jammed up on a needle, you haven't really seen. Oh, let me spin it around the right way.
Oh.
So as you can see, I have A-lined it.
Yeah.
Here we go. We'll pull the sleeve up so you can see. There we go. So I popped an A-line in with the asymmetrical. And so essentially what has happened is that, and I have tried this on, I haven't taken images yet, but what I wanted to achieve was something that was basically neutral ease at the top of the body and around the arms with a firm fit, to the top of the breast, essentially to the bottom of the coloured portion here, and then very positive ease going down, because I need the bits that I'm negative about to be positive, right?
Osha Tricosa would agree with you 100% for those modifications.
So that's what I've gone and done, and it fits beautifully. And I based. So I did change. One of the things I did change, the ribbing wasn't working for me, so I did go to our good trusty.
I cord bind off.
I know. And it just looks so clean.
Oh, I, as you know, am an I-cord fanatic.
Yeah. And I did toy with the idea, because I did have enough yarn to do colour work around the base here, but I decided against it because I wanted that A sort of swing, and the last thing I wanted was a whole bunch of colour cutting me in half, which would really have accentuated the widest part of the portion. And the ribbing was kind of doing that too. And I sort of thought, no, I need something really clean. And the other thing I like about I-cord bind off, and I'm going to spin it around here,
is that it gives you that structure for the hang too.
It does. And also too, it helps with your short rows when you're picking those short rows up. It tidies it all up. Now, I was showing Claire these this morning. The nice thing about the big rip, is that I wasn't happy with how I tensioned my short rows. I'm a wrap and turn girl. I've done all the other ways, but I keep going back. I like wrap and turn.
No, I mean, there's a reason it works. Let's all be clear here.
Yeah, and so I hadn't. Oh, and I've just realized that there's one that I forgot to pick up in knit.
I'm weirdly a Japanese shadow wrap method person.
Yeah.
For those of you at home, that's where you combine a wrap and turn with a German short row. Don't try it. Like, this is not.
That sounds like an unholy combination. There you go.
Oh, it is so unholy, and it is so complicated to undo. And I've been told that it's like impossible, but I love it.
Yeah. So I've just realized there's one wrap that I've forgotten to pick up and knit. But you know what? This is an oatmeal yarn, and it's on the ass. So you're not
totally blends in.
So it's just going to blend in. So yeah, so that was, and of course, an I-cord bind off. For anyone who hasn't done an I-cord bind off,
huge fan.
I love it. It's fantastic, but it is a set yourself in. This was a 2 TV show bind off. It's not the world's fastest bind off.
I believe that my Starflanket I-cord bind off was 3 episodes of Outrageous Fortune.
Yeah.
So, you're looking at just under 3 hours, everyone.
Yeah, and this is the same with this. So because you're essentially working 4 rows because of the way that you
per stitch.
Per stitch. So it is it's great though. I'm really, really happy with it.
I love the final look.
Yeah, and I'm super, super pleased, and it's done everything that I wanted. And the nice thing
Yes.
about this is that is this fabric. If you're wanting to do this, so I've done mine in Southland oatmeal, and I've used a ball of county. But if you're wanting to do just this, and you're wanting some really lovely, vibrant color at the top, and even if you stripe the colors or did some really fun, funky stuff, I mean, Little Bandit in this,
Little
um,
Bandit would be a fantastic choice.
amazing,
Huge
amazing.
fan of Little Bandit for color work, as you already know.
Oh,
Um,
and I'll flip it out on the inside because I know that someone will
yep,
probably
yep.
definitely want to
I
see.
also want to see those floats. As you know, I am the high priestess of neurotic floats. You've
Yes, but
had
mine,
my color
I
work.
will be fair, mine have not been as neurotic as yours, but I think they're not bad.
Oh, those are beautiful. You know what the nice thing is too, Maree, about the I-cord bind off is, and I'm not just saying this, you could genuinely wear that inside out.
Yeah.
You could
Yes. Yeah.
100% get two different looks out of that particular garment. The
Yeah.
way that that gradient works on the, thank you for holding back up. The way that that gradient with that collar works on the inside, everyone, and the evenness of Maree's floats, you could absolutely do the exposed inside. It is one of those things about some color work, especially where you're using those striped patterns of color in them, where you can just wear them both ways. I
Yeah.
would absolutely wear that inside out.
And the nice thing about this grippier yarn is that, look, the yarn does half the work for keeping the floats even. In the pattern, she does actually talk about switching up a needle size do you do that? I don't bother.
I have to say, it really depends on the knitter's tension. I
Yeah.
think that there are a lot of people, everyone at home, some people that I know personally, who when they come to color work,
Yeah.
they tense up. You know, you can see it. The shoulders come up, the hands get a little tighter on the needles, and it just leads to a little bit of added tension. And so I think what the designers are doing, because we don't necessarily, we're not like our moms and grandmas, everybody who's watching, who were constantly knitting those Fair Isle
Mm.
flat knit pieces. So your color work tension is very well developed before you're jumping into garments,
Yeah.
because color work in the round, in my opinion, is much easier. I
Oh,
love a steek.
so
I
easy.
love a lopi. I love any sort of yoked sweater.
Yeah.
Um, and the reason for that is it makes it really soothing because it's
Mm.
miles of I call it interactive stockinette because
Yeah.
you're doing something, but you're just knitting. And if you really master the two-handed technique, I'm
Mm.
not certain how you knit your color work.
Yeah.
I'm a two-handed person. I hold one strand in one hand and one strand in the other.
Yeah, no, I did the same. I would have the dominant in the how
In
did
the
I do it?
left,
I had the dominant in the left and the less dominant in the right, and then I would switch them over, which she referred to in the pattern. The other thing I do too is I also mark out the repeats as well. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. As you know, I engaged in an absolutely bonkers test knit earlier this year.
mm,
Um, and sorry for all of you at home. One day you will see the final sweater. Today is
do I
not
have
that
it
day.
amazing?
Tomorrow doesn't look good either. Check back in 6 months. Um, the uh, the color work on that and on anything complex like with Goldwing, which is, if you are familiar with Jennifer Steingrass Knit Loves Wool work,
Mm,
you will know that her color work tends to have that more, I would call it like a finial shape, where you're
yeah,
dealing with longer, thinner repeats that are worked over multiple rows. I personally find with that sort of color work that it is easier to get off kilter.
yeah.
When it's a shorter, chunkier color work section, maybe with fewer repeats per round,
Mm,
your mistakes don't get as out of hand as quickly. So I tend not to mark those ones because it's normally more evident when you've made a
mm.
mistake. But because of her very ethereal, feathery nature to much of her color work, I have found in the past making one of her sweaters that it was a little bit more likely to
Mm.
make an error.
Hmm.
But
In marking, and honestly, the other thing I love about marking up those repeats, because I think in this one it was something like a 12 stitch, 12 or 13 stitch block.
bite sized.
Yeah, bite sized. And the thing, and so yes, it does mean that you have a million and one little markers rolling around your work, but what it means is you are it's highly repetitious. So when it comes to following the chart, really all you're having to do is memorize this tiny little bite of color, and then you just rinse and repeat. So boom, boom, boom,
Boom,
boom,
boom,
boom.
boom.
And it makes two things. One, it makes the rounds go a lot faster because you're only having to remember a small bite at a time. And two, it actually really does assist with your tension because you're not constantly sort of referring back to your chart. All you're having to remember is for me, it's a pattern recognition thing. So I don't even count. I'll just look at,
I like the row before and line it up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, right, that's all I'm looking at. And it's just, it's very methodical. And so, yeah, for me, I did not change my needle. And I don't do a tremendous amount of colour work, but I was quite comfortable with the fact that I wouldn't need to change that needle size up. And I'm glad that I haven't, because I think if I did, my floats would have been a bit sloppy. And I also think that I've got the ease and the fit across here is spot on.
Wouldn't have given you what you were looking for
No.
because it would have changed the gauge of the particular fabric. There are some circumstances, if you're doing something with color work where you're holding yarn double, you absolutely have to change your needle size. It's just a weird fact. I can't explain it to any of you. If you're interested in experiencing that sort of thing, there is a designer named Anna Maltz who has a whole collection of patterns called Marlisle, where you do color work holding two yarns of two different colors together. So you're using 4 strands at a time, just warning you in advance. It is like knitting while juggling. I would actually highly recommend, if you wanted to get to that, using Little Bandit and Bohemia Sport together, because a little bit of fluff actually adds a lot of dimension to those sorts of, it's transitional color work. You're easing in and out of solid stockinette. Lately, I've been having, as Maree knows, the rest of you at home don't, I weirdly love to swatch. Like, I enjoy the swatching in an emotionally satisfying way. So I've actually been playing with using both texture as well in my color work, as in yarns of different texture together while they're the same weight, and also combining garter stitch into color work. So for things like if you're making a round sphere, I'm having a little play. You will see the results shortly and we'll see how it ends up. But my idea was to take the shapes that we make with color work, really simplify them down to their basic proportions. Like, I mean the good old Montessori basic geometry shapes, you know, a circle, a triangle, a cube, and play with them interacting. But when you add garter stitch into a basic shape, it makes it dimensional. So it actually, when you also add texture into it by doing it with Little Bandit and in the background, and then one strand of Bandit and one strand of Bohemia Sport held double for the color work, it gives it double dimension. It's literally popping off the sweater at you. So, you know, just playing around with some new ideas, with some fresh things, with the yarns that we have available to us. And, you know, there are endless amounts of your yarns that have different textures, different things to it as well. And I really just want to encourage people, when they're planning out a colorwork project, to give it a little bit more play than you usually would. If you don't like it, you can always just rip it back. As Maree and I have talked about today, it is really easy to rip things out, but it doesn't actually take that long to make a lot of these patterns today compared with what it used to. So if you're doing something, if you're already someone who at home has a stack of jerseys and cardigans, guilty as charged, leader of the cult, then there's no reason not to play around. You will have some misses that make a beautiful garment that you don't end up enjoying. Extra texture. I take some pretty big shots with my garment making. Like, I go out on some pretty far limbs, and sometimes when you get really far out on a limb, it snaps. So it's just one of those things. I mean, Yishu, the pattern I'm wearing right now by Michelle Wang, is actually a fairly risky knit. And I was working on this the last time that we were together in person, and it actually includes a lot of short rows. All of the shaping here at the top to make the sleeve opening is done with a whole bunch of very rapid short rows that also gives the body an A-line shape. But because this is knit side to side in 2 separate pieces and then seamed up the middle, that's what this visible exposed piece rising up is, it gives it a really interesting shape that I was wearing intentionally because it's similar to the shaping you were putting in your Goldwing. I know. I like to match. It's more fun that way. And I mean, I knit what could be considered for, so my goal was also, everyone, to have something completely finished to show you today. I did not succeed quite as well as Maree, despite my best efforts, due to a sleeve incident that has already been discussed. That was mortifying. And because of my own particular bind-off habits that are, shall we say, excessive. Because I love a sewn bind-off. Not going to pretend otherwise. A sewn tubular bind-off into ribbing is my idea of perfection. If you're not into sewn tubular bind-offs, I can respect that. I just don't agree with you. Full disclosure. This particular one that I am wearing right now, of course, includes none of those techniques. It is plain stockinette everywhere. You just bind off the edges. You leave them exposed. They all roll. It gives it a really fresh, different look than what a lot of...
When you were knitting that too, like that's the thing, because it is done in pieces. And I remember, because it's knitted side to side, by the way, people. It's not knitted bottom up, so it's side to side. And I remember you completed, I think it was the front or the back of one of them. And I was looking at it, and I was looking at you, and I was looking at the piece, and I'm thinking, there is no way on earth that that's going to fit. But see, that's again blocking. And construction. It's actually
of the construction. The genius of the construction. So if you are looking to make yourself a 4-ply pullover or a 5-ply pullover, this should be at the top of, I think, many people's lists. It is super flattering in a very unexpected way, because now I'm going to stand up and see how well I can stay in camera. This might be like a little bit of a quarter squat instead. So it comes down quite far, and it does have that slight A-line shaping from the underarm. We're going to go with this arm. The sleeves are one piece. They are knit from the bottom upwards, and you just ease them in around the side. The back is also knit from the bottom up, and it has an arched shape to it that gives you a keyhole effect in the back as well, where you're not connecting it in the center. In the front is 2 panels that are seamed together with an exposed seam. So for those of you who are not neat seamers, good news. It's on the inside, so it doesn't matter. It is a really interesting way to build a garment, because you're actually guaranteed to have the number of stitches you need to do a 1-by-1 mattress stitch seaming on every single seam, because that's how it's written.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are nervous about seaming, with this particular construction, you place markers as you go when you're doing the bind-offs of each section, so that you know where to line up your seams afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about this is thought of. It took, I believe, only 7 balls of Little Bandit in total between the 2 colors, which is an insanely efficient use of yarn. It is knit on a 3.75 millimeter needle, and it's all stockinette.
Yeah.
There's no tricks. There's no special techniques. There's no hidden gems in this pattern. You're literally making 5 pieces of stockinette and seaming them together over brunch with a mimosa, hopefully. If you're not, I also accept breakfast bourbon as an alternative.
I have to admit, I don't mind seaming, and I match perfectly executed mattress stitch to me is a thing of beauty, and it always amazes me how many people have never actually learnt a good mattress stitch. But once I know, I went for years without knowing how to do it properly, and then when I was shown it, it was the biggest eureka moment ever. And that exposed seam in the front, the beautiful part is when you go in from the other side and you leave that each part, it is the most perfect thing. And it's just,
It's a
Oh,
beautiful guideline, and none of
lovely.
the seams are terrifically long either, because
No.
you're not closing the neck. So for those of you at home who have been blessed in ways that I have not, for both reasons of gender and because I can't bench press, this particular fit with the wider neck but the slightly narrower shoulder actually gives you the option, when you have a fuller bust, to wear this really comfortably. It's a great, great choice.
No.
Oh, just a brief thing. I think someone just mentioned it is actually a shawl. It's the Sunday Shawl by Alaya Bland in my background, also in Bandit, conveniently.
I know. Oh, it's gorgeous, that short. And I think it's a freebie too on Revelry, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it is a freebie. It is not a freebie.
It's not a
Not a
freebie.
freebie. I'm being communicated with by my production
Oh,
assistant. Um,
I'm glad she's
colloquially
there.
known as Deb, who's currently making one in Ruthven from the Gothic line. Now, I do have a 99.9% complete jersey that, if everyone at home really wants, I can attempt to wriggle into live on camera if that's exciting for you. Um, good news. I also made a yoked jersey, so we can sort of match, except without matching at all, because you may not know this, but Maree and I are actually different people. Although we regularly like to knit the same sort of thing at the same
We
time.
do.
We never plan this. I just want to point this out to everyone at home. There is no intent. I didn't know she was doing Goldwing. She didn't know I was casting on Adelaide. It just happened organically. So I have been working in the Sock Bandit, in the Intrepid colorway. Surprising none of you who know me, I'm wearing navy right now. Let's move on. And this is a great pattern. It is an Isabel Kramer pattern. I did go a little off-road with it for everyone at home because, as you may or may not know, many top-down sweater patterns do have a slightly lower neckline. And except for the garment I'm wearing right now, I have never never liked a low neck in my life. As a matter of fact, I like them to just barely brush my earlobes. That's my goal with most sweater necklines. So I raised the neckline on this. If you're interested in the very complex and boring details of how one does that, you can always check out the Outlaw HQ podcast where I explain in detail. But suffice it to say, you work 5 rows with one needle size, 5 rows with another needle size, and then 5 rows with the original needle size. And that is a surefire bet to get a slightly better neckline fit if you like it more close without having to change the short rows or the increased sections in the garment. Now, surprising no one, I also decided to change the sleeves because I love a slim sleeve. I'm not a big fan of bulk in my sleeves. I like them to be quite fitted. And a lot of patterns come lately with a more, I would say, business casual friendly, slightly relaxed sleeve that goes great over top of a dress shirt. Now, the lace in this is a little tricky to see, which is why I wore white today. And if you'll all please hold the line for 2 seconds, I'm going to strip off one jersey and put on another that still has the needles in one sleeve because I have not bound it off. Although I guess right before that, I should be very clear with all of you. There is involved in this, even though it's very dark, a 1x1 tubular cast on there at the neckline. And then my favorite detail that Isabel includes in many of her garments is she changes to a 2x2 rib for the bottom of the garment. So you are not ending up with the 1x1 rib, which does not necessarily on many body types flatter, as it is a more rigid bottom blessing there. And this one is finished with a 2x2. Don't know how well that shows up on camera, but there is a 2x2 tubular bind off there, which gives you a plump,
And you can
rounded
see with the
edge.
high twist of that Sock Bandit, the elasticity that you've got with that ribbing. It's just fantastic.
So much elasticity. I am a huge fan of it. Now, I still have needles in one sleeve because I do a sewn bind off that takes a little bit of time and requires you to use 2 needles simultaneously so you can easily divide the stitches, which is a weird trick. I am sure one day Maree and I will catch you up on all of the wacky ways that we like to bind things off, and you will all decide that we're mad.
There is definitely a class there.
Yes.
Can,
I think it should be a joint one, though, the next time I can. It could be you and I just dancing around and doing, it'll be like a 5-hour extravaganza. People won't know what happened afterwards. They'll be like wandering out like people out of a sweat lodge. It'll be great. Get ready for extreme bind-offs with Maree and No. All right, here we go. The moment of truth. Does the jersey that you spent hours and hours working on finally fit? Let's find out what happens live. Oh, I almost hit my production assistant.
Oh, that lace panel looks great.
There we go.
Yeehaw.
All tucked in. So, for those of you at home, yes, needles in one sleeve. For those of you at home, it does have a beautiful lace panel that runs right around the yoke, all the way across the back. I made this intentionally to wear with the shirt that I'm wearing, which has a slightly more French length on the cuff of the dress shirt. So it's a little bit shorter because I like my wrist bones exposed in case I should wear a watch or a bracelet. And so these sleeves are finished to still expose that cuff at what we would describe as a bracelet length, which is longer than 3/4, but shorter than full length.
Yeah.
And I've just added a little bit of extra sleeve stitches at the top here along the bicep because my arms tend to be slightly larger than most female-bodied people who are knitting. It's almost like I do something with them on a regular basis. But, you know, so yes, this is my 90% finished jumper.
Oh, no, it looks fantastic. And that lace panel is stunning. The color is good. And I agree with you. I mean, you and I have talked about sleeve length ad nauseum. I'm not, well, you can even see it with what I've got on here. Oh, here we go, in camera. There we go.
Yep.
I'm the same. I like to, I mean, you see, and I mean, I think this is, I mean, you know, look at that.
Covering the thumb, like.
I mean, really. I mean,
I don't know what the rest of you, but I eat food with sauce.
Thank you.
Like, that's a bad combination. I'm also Italian on half my side, so I talk with my hands constantly, which is why I'm so worried about the needles being in the sleeve. Might impale myself unintentionally. And
I'm sorry, this is the other thing. Not that I'm begging Jennifer on this, but I mean, so generally, roughly as a rule of thumb, okay? And I mean, this is like a Da Vinci style Arthurian man type ratio.
Yeah.
The body is it doesn't matter if you've got extra padding. There are certain ratios, golden ratios in the body, which is the same with everybody, right?
I agree.
So when it comes to knitting, often sweaters and stuff, if you're wanting to get perfect proportions, often your sleeve length should finish at theoretically your hem length with your garment, right? In terms of waist. Okay. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, it's not my speed. The really long sleeve thing that has been rearing its ugly head lately, first of all, they take way longer to make.
Yes.
Like, you're just adding basically a whole extra hat onto the end of your arm worth of knitting. Remember, sleeves are basically knitting 3 hats or 2 socks.
Yeah.
I don't have the time or the patience for that. Do you know how many things we have to knit in a year?
Yeah, I know. Trust me.
And like the constantly then pushing up the sleeves, like if I don't make bracelet length or 3/4 length sleeves, I spend 90% of my time pushing them up because it's much more challenging, everyone at home, because the amount of distance between the top of your wrist bone and the base of your thumb is much shorter than the conversant distance from the top of your wrist bone to your elbow. You are much more likely to succeed aiming for this target area than for this target area.
Exactly.
And I just think personally, especially with the way that we do top-down knitting today, which can be marginally less precise, not because of poor pattern writing or anything else, but because part of the sleeve is incorporated into the yoke portion. It doesn't matter if you're sitting at home watching us, if you're making a set-in sleeve, if you're doing the contiguous sleeve, if you're doing a round yoke like Maree and I just did, if you're doing a saddle shoulder, part of your sleeve is incorporated into the top of the sweater. So the distance that you measure from the base of your underarm down to the point where you want the sleeve to end is not going to be accurate.
No. Which is why Ethan and I have talked about this previously, that we quite often like to do our sleeves first before we get onto the body. And it's because you can pop it over your head, pop your arms in, which is exactly what I did to get the sleeve length that I wanted before I hit my Colourworks. So,
and it just controls better as well, because then when you're knitting the length of the body, oftentimes when you put the sleeves in, the body goes up roughly 4 centimeters.
Yeah. I mean, Barbara's just got sitting here. She's saying she's constantly pushing the sleeve up or having to wash the garment because the sleeve got dragged into something messy. And I'm the same. Was it this one? I put this on this morning and there was coffee stains. I mean, it happens.
I make a lot of red wine-based sauces. I don't need to increase the danger in my life.
No.
Like, that doesn't... When you combine red wine with butter, it is never coming out. It's in there for life.
Exactly. So I want to also get on to, and I know we need to talk about this now because the rate things are selling. I know. So I've just been over and pulled out. I am so totally feeling these colours at the moment. This is Victor, Ruthven. Radcliffe there, Radcliffe. And Ruthven here.
Yes.
So feeling these guys. In fact, we popped up the Odyssey shawl from Mahuhi Locatelli with those two the other day with fog as a contrast. Thank you, people, for now buying all the fog that we have, and we've now begged Deb and been raiding her stocks as well. So do... Gorgeous. I have Claire has been on the hunt this morning and has found another pattern which would look amazing with these two, or actually these two, or even Kelmscott. We're just going to put up some more pattern ideas because I know
even those two with Kelmscott would not be a sad combination.
Not at all. I have to say personally, I mean, I love Lewis in the collection because it's the orange, and we all know that I'm a bit fond of an autumnal colour or two.
What?
I know.
But that name has nothing to do with you either, Maree. No.
But I have to say, for me, Ruthven is I adore this. Absolutely adore it.
I believe Deb is also firmly in the Ruthven camp.
Yeah, me too.
As we all know, Deb, when she makes color selections, is never a fan of a straight up color because they don't play as well together. Let's be honest here. If you end up with a bunch of straight up kind of Pantone shades, it's just not how color work that a lot of us do get built. Like Carney, that yarn that you use in the Goldwing, while it has all of the main colors in it, none of them are the exact like Roy G. Biv shade. That's what makes it so dynamic. Yeah.
And so when I was sorting out the shelf behind me, because it was an absolute mess, and I thought, well, if I'm going to sit here, I better clean my books up.
Doesn't sound like you.
I know. It doesn't sound like me at all. No. So I picked up this one, which is I've had this in my collection for years. This is Joe Sharp Eclectic. I mean, this came out. Oh, when did it come out, Joe? This came out in. Have we got a date on here? No, but I mean, this is probably this book would be at least 12 years old, and a lot of her collections, she has very classic styling in terms of her design. But I just remembered why I picked it up is that there was a jacket in here that I remembered, which is this one here.
Ooh, that is beautiful.
I know, right? Yeah. It's called the box stitch jacket. Now, this is the cropped version. I also know on the website, and I'm going to pop the link in the comments in just a moment. She has got in the pattern, she's got a full length as well as this crop length version. But that, and for those that are not in the round people and are seamy people, these are seamed items. Yes. And that, honestly, in Gothic, I mean, that to me screams Gothic. Absolutely screams Gothic. And it's, when let's consult the, and also, actually, I'm going to show you one other, which I think it will be amazeballs. Now, I think she actually did this in a, look at that, though. If you want
yeah. That would be great.
I know. I mean, if you had a buttload of Stoker, wouldn't you want to do that?
What do you mean? I haven't taken any Stoker. Blatant lies with Ethan in the morning. I already have a project cast on that has Stoker in it, Maree. I just didn't bring it today because I'm trying desperately to get this little four-ply beauty finish before I move on to anything else.
Yeah, so the Antarja is definitely in a DK, and she also had another, but here we go, box to check it. There we go. So you're looking at 6 to 7 balls of between 5 and 7 balls, 100-gram balls, and I just love it. Like, absolutely loved it. It's To be fair, the sizings aren't particularly generous. Like, the biggest size would be a squeeze for me. But you know what? It's the sort of thing that I would just up a needle size and play around with it.
It is one of the things sometimes with older pattern books. But, a little bit of increasing the sizes is not necessarily as challenging as it may appear.
And the kimono, which is on the front here.
Yes.
Stoker, Brambleberry. Ooh. And
Brambleberry for sure.
Brambleberry.
Even doing the neckline in Victor with Brambleberry would be a beautiful combination.
And then you could just throw your color work in with scraps and bits and pieces that you've got. And, even one of the other things I liked about that too, talking about that, was when you were talking about texture too, when you're doing Antarja like this, sometimes it's really fun to play around with those fillers and not do them in stocking stitch and actually do them without a stitch, and then they just pop. I
agree completely.
Yeah, so it
can help with tension as well. We did talk about that earlier, but if you're not a confident Intarsia knitter, garter stitch in Intarsia actually is self-correcting for tension, because garter stitch is always self-correcting.
Yeah, so it's I can't find it. Where is it gone? Anyway.
Well,
it's lots of positive ease, let's put it that way. So positive ease means that we can do what we need to do.
So just my one thing, I am actually working on a 7 T's cardigan. It is SEVEN space TEES by Katrin Schneider in my first wave of Gothic. Surprisingly, I'm using Keats as the main color, Hyde as the contrast 1, and Stoker as the contrast 2. I really went outside of my comfort zone with that combination, folks. It's literally the three colors.
Lying in the mornings with Ethan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, blatant lies in the morning with Ethan. It's a great way to start your day. It's like caffeine, except it hits you more. So yes, that has been my plan, because I really think that this collection of Gothic is best used when you're using as much of it as possible and as many colors together as possible, which is unsurprisingly my approach. But Deb is making a Sunday shawl, as I mentioned. She is using Ruthven. Now, I have a sneaking suspicion that it is called the Sunday shawl because it takes 7 colors. And there are 7 days when you get to Sunday. I could be wrong, but this is my personal opinion about someone else's art, so you have to accept it. But if you are looking to make one, there are 7 colors Gothic.
True. So, so just reminding everybody, we've got more stocks. In fact, hopefully it should turn up today on our courier today.
I believe so.
Yes, so it left on Monday, so it should be there today. So we've got more, because I'm looking out in the shop now, and there's a reason why these are the 3 colors that I bought, because they're the only 3 colors on the shelf, but that's okay because we have got more coming, so panic not. So yes, they will be in today, and we've got I think more of everything. I think we ordered worsted, and we ordered sport, and we ordered some bandit. We ordered a whole heap of things, so they will all be arriving today. Oh, Glennis just wants to know the name of the shawl behind Ethan again. It's called the Sunday Shawl.
Sunday Shawl by Alia
Brand.
Yes.
So that is fantastic. Now, before we go, I have got 3 pages worth of restocks here, so I'm just going to bore you with these, Ethan.
I love it.
I know. So we have a whole heap. Now, Mahana fans, I've got a grab hold of your 90s, girls. I have got a lot of Mahana that's come in. So the Mahana that's come in, I've got Natural Care Cape. No, not on that page. Natural Care Cape, Flax, and Tussock are all back.
Boom.
Boom. Perindale and Leafy Mint. Cape. Emerald, Buttermilk, and Aqua. And Electric Blue. Chatswood and Dorset and Chelsea. And Sheffield came in last week. I know a lot were waiting for Sheffield. Southland to DK, because we've been getting the Southland to DKs back in. We've got that back in Loganberry. And that's it. So it's quite a load. But I will put that out in the newsletter today, along with a lot of the things that Ethan and I have discussed today as well. So then that way you will not miss out on a thing. Oh, the one last thing, P.S. Ethan and Deb, as I mentioned last time, are going to be with us here at Skeinz at the end of the month. I am really excited for that.
I am super excited.
Super excited for that. And I'm just going to slowly, just a little hint, let a wee cat out of the bag. They will not be alone that weekend.
So we're bringing all of our personalities. No.
No, we will be there. We've had a few things sort of come out of the woodwork in the last little bit for that weekend. So if you happen to be in the Bay that weekend, if you're keeping your travel plans that you already had in place for Knit August Nights and having a Bay away weekend, or you easily can drive across and come visit us on that Saturday the 29th, just pencil it in the diary and watch the space.
I am rarely on the North Island, everyone. And by rarely, I mean 2 previous times. So this is I don't want to say, it's a once a year chance possibly to see Ethan outside of Christchurch, because I never leave Christchurch, like ever. It's a real fact. People are always like, oh, have you been here? No. Have you been there? No. So I am really excited to come see Napier, and not just Napier, but especially you.
And Deb has even found you somewhere literally right around the corner from my house.
I know. I'm so glad. It really means I won't get nearly as lost. As I did that one day in Dunedin. Yes. So it's good.
That's right. All right, everybody, you have a great weekend. I now need to, I've got some running repairs to do on an item for someone here at work. I'm still working on my hitchhiker. I've been really good. I popped that to one side so I can finish my Goldwing. I'm looking at the Nanulchik Swamp Show for my next project. Yes, I'm playing around with combinations at the moment. I'm thinking I might actually go Sock Petition DK, because I've not, would you believe, all this time that we've had Sock Petition yarns, I have not done a project in Sock Petition. It needs to happen. So
I believe in you.
Yeah, so that's definitely looking like it for me. So you have a great weekend, my friend. Breakfast Bourbons, 10 o'clock Saturday morning.
Yes, Breakfast Bourbon, live from here at Outlaw HQ.
We will see.
Who knows where we'll be sitting.
And everyone else have a great weekend. We will see you then. Take care. Bye.